For the 90-second presentation, you will be imagining that you are an employee of the company now. You encounter an executive who asks why sustainable development is important and how that is linked to the team's topic. You have 90 seconds in which to convince the executive why this needs to be addressed, and one member of the team will do this. So when you're ready, go ahead.
Sustainability is extremely important, and Haas Avocado Board isn't doing enough for the sustainable sourcing of our avocados and the communities involved in the supply chain. Right now, the main goal of the board is to make avocados the most popular fruit in America. But this is creating an unsustainable ethical, legal, and financial dilemma, such as deforestation, water overconsumption, and even cartel violence for other countries. This is especially true in Michoacan, Mexico, which is our #1 area of imported avocados. I recommend we launch a solution as soon as possible if we want to ensure sustainable consumption by educating our customers and protecting our farmers. You're probably concerned that the solutions are going to be a large financial investment or that it will negatively impact the popularity of avocados, much like quinoa. But the cost of not taking action outweigh the risks of implementing a sustainable solution. These solutions will create value for customers, maintain sustainability of the supply, and likely acquire new ones. Not to mention, it's the right thing to do. 8 out of 10 customers are more likely to buy a sustainable brand over a non-sustainable one. I know Sound Solutions came up with a farmer and consumer-focused recommendation to get ahead of this at low incremental costs from our current strategy. I'm happy to walk you through these ideas whenever you have time, and we can make an action plan to get started as soon as possible. Thank you, and I look forward to see what we do in this space.
Okay, great job. Good time management. Similar feedback on the delivery there, in that it was, you were reading from some prepared remarks, and the setup here is that you're bumping into somebody in the hallway. So just doing it more, I think practicing more ahead of time, having your 2 or 3 main points that you want to make, and then practicing delivering those is probably the way to go on something like this. And then you're going to come off sounding not only more authentic, but also the delivery will be simpler that way. You won't be rushing through so much material. Not that you sounded rushed, but there was a lot packed in there. Whereas if you were just talking to me and answering the question, you would really just be focused on like your 2 or 3 points. And I think that would make it stick with me a little bit better. Verbal communication is always different than written communication. So it's hard to write something and then, turn it into like an effective verbal message. So that's really the only feedback there. I did like how you talked about the pros and the cons, the pros outweigh the risks. And it was a nice touch at the end when you kind of acknowledged like, hey, let's get together and discuss this more. That was really good.
Thank you.
Okay, so any questions, or do you want to talk about anything here?
Yeah, one question I have is, like, we spent a lot of time sort of crafting the ethical argument and trying to figure out, like sort of going through like all the pieces and then like what were the most important pieces to talk about. And so, I'm just wondering from your perspective, like how do you, because, your maybe department's focus might sometimes conflict or maybe not, but like be different than another departments. Like, how do you use ethical language to talk to others? I think that was one of the things where like we probably all got a lot out of this, of just like trying to really be like, what is the ethical problem, and then like how do we actually present that? So from your experience, I just would love to hear, like, when you're actually talking about ethical issues to other stakeholders in your company, sort of how do you do that? And where might there sometimes maybe be like misfits or challenges?
No, it's a really insightful question, and I'm glad to hear that you guys struggled with that a little bit. It depends a lot on what the culture of the company is. At some companies, this can be a lot more difficult than in others. But you're right, the company has several different facets to its mission. Of course, there's a fiduciary duty to earn profits and return value to shareholders. So that's always a key consideration. And sometimes it can seem, at least on the surface, like that's at odds with some kind of ethical dilemma that you're facing, right? Should you be in a certain market? It makes you money, but there are ethical concerns with being in that market. So what do you do about this? And really, I think the trick is just understanding who your audience is. And like I said before, you guys did a really nice job with that, because you didn't come in saying, here's what the board has done wrong, or here's why the board's mission is ill-advised, or here's why I don't agree with the board's mission. All of those things would be pretty insulting and off-putting, and maybe, I might not respect what you have to say then. But you did it differently. You said, look, I'm looking around the corner for you guys. I see some potential risks. And so you handled that very nicely, right? And we've seen other companies have problems when they went down a path without thinking these things through first. So that's one thing that you can do, is point to other situations that have happened to other companies. You can even point to situations that have happened to your own company. Sometimes the way I have to convince a department that they need to invest in some kind of solution to reduce our risk is to say, hey, remember when we didn't do this before and we lost a huge lawsuit because of it, and that we had to pay a lot of money? And then, then people remember. So it's about showing how there's value to whoever that stakeholder is. You guys also pointed out something really nice about the net positives that come out of it, right? You're going to grow the market, you're going to positively influence consumers, you're going to bring consumers on board with your message. You're just changing the sales pitch, you're finding a different way to appeal to consumers. You're going to increase the brand value. And so you did all of that very nicely. You showed how it's important to the stakeholder, even though when they walked into the meeting, they may not have thought that ethics was going to be the most important thing to them, but you did a really nice job showing them why it actually is.
Thank you for
Great,
that.
thank you.
Yeah. If others don't have a question, I actually do have a quick question, because I think that our situation actually somewhat relates to what's in digital, where we are the basically name that's known, right? In terms of what's digital. Let's say if one of your downstream suppliers runs into an ethical issue, whether it's label or supply chain,
Yep.
How would you, as kind of the upstream one that has the brand name out, how do you typically, or how would you suggest to respond?
That's a tough one, and we wrestle with that internally. Do we even know? Do we have the ability to know? Sometimes we sell our products directly, in which case we can have a contractual relationship with those parties to control, if they're misusing the product or something like that, and then we have some leverage over the party to do something about it. Sometimes though, we're selling to distributors who turn around and sell to other distributors or other companies. And so we lose sight of the product at some point. We sell it, it's out there, it's in the field, and we don't know what people are doing with it. And then it becomes a lot trickier. So yeah, that's another very insightful question, and something that a lot of companies like ours have to deal with. And you're right, ethics comes squarely into play there. Regulators are interested in this space as well. Know your customer, due diligence that you have to do. How far down the chain do you have to conduct this diligence? Clearly, we have to do research, background reports, and things on any party that we're selling our product to. But do we have to also conduct diligence and research on their customers and their customers' customers? And at some point, that becomes impractical. Are we a company that's manufacturing and selling hard drives, or are we a company full of investigators who's just investigating everybody? So tough questions.
Thank you for the feedback, really insightful.
Very interesting area though, if any of you is interested in practicing in this space. They say that opportunity is where luck meets preparation, or something like that. And that's true. As you start your careers, you're always going to want to be preparing and being ready for whatever that next move is, or that next promotion. And a lot of people kind of misunderstand how that works. It's like you put in the time, you prepare, and then you say, well, where's my promotion? Well, there has to be the opportunity as well. The company needs to need that next role that you're trying to get. There has to be a business need for it. But you just want to make sure that when that business need presents itself, that you're already ready for it. So always be preparing, thinking about what you might want to try next, because the point is you never know when opportunity is going to strike. And my career, you've probably heard this from a lot of people, and it's true. I mean, my career has taken so many left turns over its course that I never would have planned out. You just have to be ready to go with it when those chances come.